Fantasy Pros waiver wire rankings. Add rankings. Is that what I'm supposed to do? Okay, great. Let's go position by position. Then we'll give our overall top 5 or 10 or so. But let's start with quarterbacks. This week, we got the Texans and the Vikings on bye. So chances are you're not really missing your quarterback unless it's a 2-quarterback league. Sounds like McCarthy is going to be the starter after the bye anyway. So feel free to drop Wentz if you've been rolling with him. Again, not a must drop because maybe he starts still, but he is someone who is more expendable than the typical quarterback on bye. And then CJ Stroud has been a drop candidate. You're probably not rolling with him whatsoever. Realize I don't need my headphones. I'm not talking to anybody. Okay, so these are the 5 quarterbacks here. And we got Jackson Dart playing on Thursday. Tua plays the Chargers. We got Michael Penix versus the Bills on Monday. Bryce Young and Spencer Rattler. I can't add anybody else. Matthew Stafford is somebody who's owned in fewer than 60% of leagues, I think. At least on ESPN. He would be somebody I'm looking to add over all of these players if at all possible. But if I'm picking just one, I'm leaning towards Bryce Young. I don't mind Michael Penix. Obviously, the Bills are probably going to bounce back a little bit after a loss. Bills are on the road, though, which is a very different Bills team. I'm not loving Jackson Dart versus Philly on a short week. That doesn't make me feel good. Tua's not very good. Andy has a somewhat hard matchup. And then Spencer Rattler against the Patriots. I don't really need to target him against the Patriots, but he could be better than these guys. I'm going to go with Dart as number 3 just because of his rushing upside. Kind of gives him a higher floor. Tua's been bad. Spencer Rattler is bad. So of these, I'm okay with adding Bryce. Penix is an interesting speculative add here. Look for Stafford above both of them, though. Okay, running back, what do they have for us? They got Kenneth Gainwell, who people are freaking out about, but with Jalen Waddle back, Jalen Waddle is going to get run. I mean, just a quick look at the opportunity index. You can get the whole thing if you, become a member. Jalen Warren, 18.3 looks per game. And then looking at red zone looks per game, Jalen Warren has one of the highest rates, 4.3 red zone looks per game. And the last time we saw him, he was outstanding after Rodgers and Tomlin said, we need to get this guy more work. Obviously, he was out 2 weeks ago before the bye week. And Kenneth Gainwell played great. And I think Kenneth Gainwell gained more of a role. But let's not forget how much they love Jalen Warren and said they needed to feature him more. So I don't know if we need to go crazy over Kenneth Gainwell, especially against the Browns. Doesn't make much sense to me. So he's certainly not going to be our number 1. We got Michael Carter, who I think is the lead back of a committee there. Brian Robinson Jr. is squarely a handcuff, but after that huge workload game for Christian McCaffrey, never know. Kareem Hunt, we've been talking about it. If you've been reading my snap count article, if you've been listening to me speak, if you've been looking at the opportunity index, whatever it may be, any bit of content I put out, I've let you know that Kareem Hunt's the RB1 there in terms of fantasy football. And what we just saw on Monday Night Football just solidified that it was not any new news. So he's above Pacheco. Does that mean he's a start on my fantasy team? No. But he is an okay flex option, especially in a bye week fill-in. Tyler Algier is squarely a handcuff. He only gets run when the Falcons are up and they're grinding up the clock. Tajay Spears just came back, so he should be ingratiated into the offense a little bit more. He's a good player. We'll see what happens. Kendre Miller. Kendre Miller's snaps have gone up every single week. And apologies if I get the stat wrong. I believe it has risen to 39% of the snaps this past week. Continues to go up, steady rate every single week, though. I think it's risen from 15% to 39% from week 2 to week 5, if I'm correct. I definitely looked that up, so it's probably correct. Alvin Kamara, very clear trade candidate for the Saints. So he could get, traded out of town. Kendre Miller all of a sudden is a great player already anyway. But even with Elvin Kamara there, Kendry Miller's snaps are going up. He is at the very least splitting early down work. Or Kamara is still, a passing down, 2-minute, third down guy. But Kendry Miller very quickly can be getting all of the goal line touches. He could be the early down guy. So definitely add him. Think about him. Because, yeah, he skyrockets potential. Damper your expectations a little bit because it's still a bad offense. But skyrockets relatively if Elvin Kamara gets traded away. So I'm not reordering these yet. I'll do that at the end. Sean Tucker is, he sees a higher role with Bucky Irving out. Sounds like Bucky Irving's out at least one more week. And they earned that. Rashad White earned that. The Buccaneers earned that by getting a win and playing well. So Sean Tucker, what? He didn't get very many touches last week. 3 carries, 3 receptions. Doesn't move the needle for me in a high-scoring game. Who cares? Rashard Smith continues to see more work as the passing down guy there for Kansas City. Isaiah Davis. Obviously, Braylon Allen is essentially out for the rest of the season. Isaiah Davis was the receiving back kind of already anyways. Obviously, Breece Hall is the receiver as well. But Isaiah Davis has looked good, and he catches the ball well. He had 1 carry. He had 4 targets, though. They should use him more, in my opinion. They should use both running backs a little bit more creatively and a little bit more. They should play together. They should have Breece Hall split out and have Isaiah Davis in the backfield more often. That would just get more good players on the field for the Jets. Expect to see that at some point. They play the Broncos this week overseas. I don't love that matchup, but decent chance the Broncos are winning, and maybe Isaiah Davis sees more targets. So in terms of a bye week fill in at flex, you could do worse. Kyle Monangai, I always like to look at rookies coming off of a bye. It's an early bye, but it's a good way to help them catch up, get caught up to speed a little bit. Okay, we review what you've done already for the first month of the season in the league. What changes can you make? What things could you do a little bit better? How can we get you a little bit more involved into the offense? That is what they're looking at for some of these rookies. And Kyle Monangai has seen his playing time go up a little bit. He hasn't been impressive. He's not an impressive player. He's not athletic. He went to Rutgers, which is not impressive to me. They shouldn't even be in the Big Ten. So I don't love Kyle Monangai. But with all these running back injuries, he could certainly be on the rise in terms of workload. So speculative ad. And that's about it. Could he end up being a bye week fill-in at flex? Maybe. But I don't think his touchdown upside is very high, and he's not getting that much work, and he's not being efficient with the work. 7.64 for carries, not catching the ball, doesn't move the needle much. And then we got the 2 Chargers running backs again. I think both of them need to be added. I would lean towards Haskins. But the matchup, man, we just saw Rico Dowdle run for 200 against the Dolphins. So what's to say that one or both of these Chargers running backs can be fantasy relevant? Okay, so ranking these players that Fantasy Pros is giving me, and it looks like this is the consensus ownership from ESPN and Yahoo. I'm guessing they had to be owned in under 50% or something. But I'm going to go Michael Carter 1, I would say. Kendry. I'm just going to start ordering these, okay? So Kareem Hunt's above Robinson. Kareem Hunt's probably above Gainwell for me, to be honest. Tajay Spears is above Algier. He's above Robinson just because they're very clear handcuffs. They have no week-to-week value. They're very clear handcuffs, though. So if you have one of their starters, you need to own them. If you have Bijan, you need to have Algier. If you have McCaffrey, you need to have Robinson. Otherwise, they're fine to have at the end of your bench. But I do my waiver wire rankings mostly for, at least at this point in the season, mostly for the players who can actually contribute for you, not players that you're just looking to trade away, which is kind of what they are. So I balance it a little bit, but certainly weighing it towards streamer value, plug and play value, stuff like that. Sean Tucker is going to be at the very end. I know that. Isaiah Davis is up here. Isaiah Davis is probably at least 4 for me because he's got long-term value. He's got handcuff value. He's got every week value. He could even potentially be above Hunt. We'll see. Let's go. Did Brashard Smith carry the ball? He had 1 carry last night. Let's go with. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I'm gonna go with Monunga as my second worst. Algier is my third worst. Robinson as 4th. Tajay Spears at the end of the day, I think he's a pretty good player, but he's injury prone and on a bad offense, so we don't need that. Honestly, he might be below Brian Robinson because of that reason. Kenneth Gainwell, I still think people are freaking out a little bit too much over. He's not the pickup. He's not that guy. So I'm going to put him there. Vidal will stay at 7. And I will put Haskins I'll put him at 2. And obviously, if we get any news about Gus Edwards or somebody else signing with the Chargers, this throws this for a complete loop. We are recording this on Tuesday morning. No other running back has been signed to the Chargers. As of right now, I'm making this pickup thinking I'm picking up Haskins and I'm playing him in my starting lineup against the Dolphins. If I am picking up Haskins as a running back 4 or 5 on my team, zero plan to play him, probably can't even really trade him, then there's no reason to pick up Haskins. You're picking up Haskins to play him this week, or you're picking up Haskins hoping he plays a bunch against the Dolphins and then you can flip him quick in a trade. That's what I'm doing that for. And it's possible. That is a very possible thing to do. So, that's something a lot of people did with Woody Marks last week, or at least should have. Woody Marks is still going to be very much involved. I just think his value was the highest it could possibly be last week. That's something that's nice to do. Rico Dowdle, if you pick up Rico Dowdle this week or something, or if you picked him up last week, no better time to trade Rico Dowdle than now. Something like that. The fantasy football stock market's a beautiful thing. Haskins, if he can have a big week this week, go ahead and trade him. If the hype is high in your league for him, go ahead and trade him. Whatever it may be, Haskins is the number 2 pickup. I'm still going to go Michael Carter as number 1, just because even though that's a committee, he is very clearly the guy. He is very clearly the best runner there. I think DeMercado is a pretty good player, but after that boneheaded play, losing them a week, I think just the separation of Michael Carter on top of that depth chart is bigger. Colts this week, Packers the week after, bye week, and then the Cowboys. After that, I think week 10 then would be the earliest that Trey Benson could come back. Maybe he comes back for that game. I believe it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So I think week 10 would be the earliest Trey Benson could come back. And you have a couple okay matchups in there for Michael Carter. Go ahead and pick him up and use him. But I'm happy with those running backs. Let's look at wide receiver. And if you have any questions in the chat, go ahead and ask as well. Receiver here. Interesting names to be sure. Last week, just a couple names that pop out to me. I like Ryan Flournoy a lot. I think he's a really solid player, and he played really well, and I feel like whenever he gets opportunities, he shines. Now, CeeDee Lamb was out, and Kevontae Turpin was out. If either one of them come back, and I would assume Turpin's back, CeeDee I could see missing another week, but it kind of pushes Flournoy to the background again. So he's probably towards the bottom. Kayshon Boutte, did he have 1 catch again? He had 3. He plays a ton of snaps, runs a ton of routes. He just disappears on the field. So he's going to be pretty low for me. Brandon Ayuk, last we heard is he isn't close to coming back. No setbacks, not close to returning. And even when he does return, do we have any confidence in Brandon Ayuk? I don't think I do. Trey Tucker. This is a bad week for fantasy football waiver wire pickups for wide receivers, by the way. Not a good week whatsoever. Any new news on Darius Slayton's injury, hamstring, estimated DMP on Monday? Obviously, they play Thursday. He is not going to be a pickup for me personally. Let's go with Troy Franklin. Probably should be the number one pickup still. Isaiah Bond is interesting to me. Kendrick Bourne is going to be low. So I like rookies coming off of a bye week. I just said that. So Xavier Hutchinson has his bye this week. He just had a nice game. A lot of people on Houston did against the Ravens, right? He had 2 touchdowns. He only had 3 targets, 3 catches, 3 targets in 4 straight games. But again, he's looked pretty good. We know he's a good player. They drafted him early. They need him to play well. So he's got 5 games under his belt. Now he has an off week where he can do some self-scout, work on the little things that have been preventing him from getting more targets, more playing time. And then after that, we'll see his role grow. The issue is he plays Seattle, not great. San Francisco, meh. Denver, not great. So a couple tough matchups to start coming off of a bye. But I do like Xavier Hutchinson's role going forward. That should only grow. Luther Burden is a rookie just coming off of a bye. And I've been pretty clear and firm on my stance of this isn't the year to own Luther Burden. I think he's very talented. I think for Dynasty, he's good to have. But they love Olamide Zaccheaus, and DJ Moore and Romeo Odunze are the very clear 1 and 2. So there just aren't enough snaps, enough targets, enough opportunity to go around for Luther Burden at the current moment. So my expectations are very low. I think at the absolute best, he's going to be inconsistent. You don't need to own him for a redraft. Now, if there's an injury and he's able to see the field more, he's going to be great. If the Bears get, they lose 3 more games in a row or something and they're mathematically out for the playoffs, essentially, then they're going to start using their rookies more. Then we'll start seeing Loveland get used a little bit more. We'll see Burden get used a little bit more. Potentially even Monungai get used a little bit more. But while they still have a chance and are trying to be competitive, I'm not loving Luther Burden or Kyle Monungai or Colston Loveland. Not the year for them, in my opinion. Now, Burden had that one big week, and he'll have another one. He had that 3-catch, 101 yards, touchdown. Like, he'll have another big week, but you're not going to be able to predict it. And if you can't predict it, you're not going to play him. If you're not going to play him, why own him? Right? The ability to be predictable in fantasy football is huge. If you can't trust that, Luther Burden's going to do you one of two things, essentially, if you start him. He's either going to lose you a matchup or he's going to win you a matchup. And it certainly seems like it's like a 25-75 that he's going to lose you it. So why make that risk right now? There's no point. He's an interesting tournament play for DFS, but that's about it. Okay, so we got Troy Franklin 1. Trey Tucker, he's pretty firm in his role, and that's enough to put him at number 2 for me. I think that's fine. Darnell Mooney, I think, should come back and play right away. He's got Buffalo. I like that. He's a really good player. He's just been hurt all year. I'm nervous it's going to keep happening with like these soft tissue injuries and stuff. But if he isn't hurt, people disrespect Darnell Mooney too much. He's a really good player. So I'm fine with him at 3. Marquise Brown is what he is. Josh Downs is what he is. Darius Slayton has potential to be more, but he's already hurt. Christian Kirk had a good game. 4 for 64. That's nice to see. I like Isaiah Bond's upside, even with a bad quarterback on a bad offense. Okay, how do we order these? What did Josh Downs do? 6 for 54. And that feels without a touchdown, that feels like a ceiling game, doesn't it? Um, we'll go Marquise Brown there, Darius Slayton there, Josh Downs there. That's how we're going to do it. So we're going to go Troy Franklin number 1. There hasn't been any consistency there. And I do think Pat Bryant will continue to earn more and more snaps. They like him a lot, the rookie a lot. I would include him on this list over some people down here. His ability as a blocker is just going to earn him snaps. And with how athletic he is, he will start to make plays. So in a deep league, certainly worth an interesting flyer over some of these players potentially. But Troy Franklin, he's got the Bo Nix connection. He's getting snaps. He's a good player. We'll put him at number 1. I don't love him this week. However, if Sauce is on Courtland Sutton, the rest of that Jets defense stinks. So I do think somebody else for the Broncos is going to step up as a receiver. And it certainly could be Troy Franklin. Trey Tucker at number 2. I mean, he's just going to continue to see targets there. And he's a big play threat. Darnell Mooney, if he can stay on the field, he's going to be good. Isaiah Bond is risen the ranks there with Ced Tillman out. Christian Kirk and Hutchinson are both on bye, but I think that their roles on their new teams will continue to grow after the bye. Josh Downs is what he is. If you like what he's been doing, if that's useful to you whatsoever, pick him up, but I don't think he gets much better. Darius Slayton could get better, but he's on a short week. He's injured. Not a great offense. Not much upside there. Marquise Brown, his stock just continues to get lower and lower as the Chiefs get healthier and healthier. Luther Burden, he's a rookie. He's got too many people ahead of him. There's too many targets, too many mouths to feed. Not loving that. Kayshon Boutte's on the field a ton, runs a ton of routes. He just disappears. And then we got the others there. Kendrick Bourne, if you can pick him up and trade him, he's another one of those Rico Dowdle types. Just had an 11-target game. That's going to be the best game he has for the rest of his career. Now, with that Mac Jones connection, I think he will continue to play snaps even when everyone is healthy. But to even expect a 4 for 38 performance is going to be unlikely once everyone's healthy. And I assume Recchi Pearsall's back this week. Week 7, they get George Kittle back as well. So temper expectations. He's probably above Ryan Flournoy. He might be above Boutte, but I mean, he's in this section, right? Let's move to tight ends. Okay. Brenton Strange, watch this injury. He obviously was ruled out with a hip injury, I believe, last night. Does not say, but I mean, yes, he was ruled out. I believe it was a hip injury. Evan Engram had a touchdown. I was going to say he had a decent game. I'm not sure if that's necessarily true. 4 for 33, 6 targets. That's good. 7 and 6 targets past 2 weeks. That's good. Who's off this week? They got the Vikings and the Texans are off. So Dalton Schultz has been decent, and then decent chance you've been starting TJ Hawkinson as well. So you may be looking for a bye week fill-in. Harold Fannin continues to run just barely over half of the Browns' routes, which severely caps his upside. Brenton Strange is going to be last because he's hurt. Taysom Hill is going to be 6 because a lot of mouths to feed there. I don't know how. We need to see him play a consistent role in this new offense, right? This week he had some carries. I don't think he had any targets, but we'll see. We'll see what happens with Taysom Hill. He's an interesting add in 2 quarterback leagues just because there's a chance, I suppose, he takes over for Spencer Rattler at some point. I don't think that happens, but never know. Is Evan Engram my number 1 pickup? I mean, I'll do this. AJ Barner, I love him. The Seahawks love him even more because of his blocking ability. He's going to stay on the field. And then he's athletic enough to make plays. We just saw he had a touchdown, then 2 touchdowns this past week, touchdown week before that, right? Yeah. 7 targets. I don't know how likely that is. I don't think that's going to be overly consistent, but I do like him a lot. But he's going to stay at number 5 for me. This is going to be the shocker, the bold take that the fantasy community will disagree with. But Harold Fannin, until he runs more routes, he is number 4. He is number 4, and he potentially probably should be number 5. But I do think there's upside there. They could trade David Njoku, I suppose. But if he's running barely over half the snaps, I don't care. I just don't care about him. There isn't much upside further than this unless his playing time goes up. And we're talking with Said Tillman out. Harold Fannin could be moved all over the lineup, right? He plays outside, he plays in the slot, he plays tight. And even still, when their number 2 receiver goes out, his workload doesn't go up. So what's that tell us? I'll go with Evan Engram at 1. I have Mason Taylor at 2. He is just seeing his role grow, his confidence grow. He's a very solid player. And you know what? I'm actually going to put him at number 1. Theo Johnson, with the Malik Neighbors injury and with the rookie quarterback starting with Jackson Dart. Rookie quarterbacks we see all the time. They like to target that easy target underneath. They like to throw to the big-bodied guy, the high percentage completions to the tight end. And we're seeing it with Theo Johnson. We're seeing it with both tight ends. Honestly, they've been running more 2 tight end sets with Daniel Bellinger as well. But with those 2 games with Jackson Dart, 5 targets, 7 targets, 9 catches total. Found the end zone in both games, which is great. That certainly has saved his fantasy value. He has the Eagles twice, the Broncos, and the Niners over the next month. I don't love that, but, you know, I'm debating moving him down to 5 because of that stretch, because I don't feel comfortable starting him in any of those games. You know, I'm going to do that. I like Theo Johnson as a ad moving forward, but you're probably not playing him this week. And anyone who picks him up is probably dropping him over the next month. So if you really want him, you can wait, I think. However, if you are in a league that's deep, PPR, maybe tight end premium for receptions, and you just need someone who's not going to lose you a week, I think Theo Johnson's role is really safe. Obviously, he has touchdown upside. If they get into the red zone, he can definitely see those targets. And he should continue to see 3 to 6 targets per game. So low ceiling, high floor at the tight end position is Theo Johnson, I think. But yeah, those are the tight ends. I think that's fair. Now, this week, we got the Vikings off. Vikings and Texans, 2 legitimate defenses that you may be looking for bye-week fill-ins for. Colts at number 1, Packers at number 2, Patriots at number 3. That is very fair, given the matchups, right? Packers had a week off to prepare to get their shit in order a little bit before facing the Bengals. Bengals aren't committing to a quarterback. However, I would be surprised if it's not Jake Browning, to be honest. And it sounds dumb, but I don't think it's really been Jake Browning's fault. He's been flustered, but I think it's a coaching thing for sure. And then I think it's an offensive line thing. But you can scheme up plays to make the pass rush less crazy. You can move the pocket around a little bit. You can slide protection certain ways. And the Bengals aren't doing that. They've never done that. And that's why Joe Burrow gets killed. That's why Jake Browning's getting killed. And Jake Browning can manage that pressure getting hit much worse than Joe Burrow and many other starting quarterbacks. And that's what resulted in last week. So I think better days ahead for Jake Browning. If they get any sort of protection against the Packers, they will destroy the Packers secondary. But I still have a decent amount of faith in the Packers getting home against that Bengals offensive line. I don't know what the fuck the Cardinals are, though. So I'm going to go with Colts number 1. Saints have been tricky. Saints have been a little annoying. So I am going to keep the Patriots at 3. This is a fair order, to be honest. I think I'm going to put the Raiders at 4, Jaguars at 5. But yeah, that's pretty straightforward. And then kicker, you could be missing a couple decent kickers for sure. Fairbairn is is a good one. Bills against Falcons indoors. That's a very good streamer matchup. And honestly, I think the Steelers can move the ball against the Browns, especially coming off a bye. But I think the Browns defense is good enough to lock down the red zone. So Boswell is a good pickup there. Otherwise, Carlson will be good. McManus potentially could be good. Again, we're looking for offenses that can move the ball in games where it should be close or the team will be winning, but maybe they don't finish in the end zone for touchdowns. So that is what we are looking for. Take a look at whoever the Colts pick up. I'm not sure if they made a pickup yet, but their kicker is out for the rest of the season, and they're a good offense to have a kicker for. So I would potentially take their kicker at number 3 here, whatever decision they make. I'm not a Jason Myers guy whatsoever. So I'll keep him at 5 because I don't want Chad Ryland either. Okay, let's order our top 5 or our top 10 here for overall fantasy football waiver wire rankings. It's giving us the Colts by default, but no, it's Michael Carter. We're going to go Michael Carter at 1. We will go probably Hassan Haskins at 2 at the current moment. Again, Chargers have not signed anybody, but we will do that. Like I said before, bad week for wide receivers, and that's going to show because I think Mason Taylor is the number 3 pickup. Number 4, I'll go with Troy Franklin as number 4. I think that's fine. I will take the Colts defense at 5. I will take Kendre Miller at 6 because of that upside, because of the way that is trending in that backfield for New Orleans. I think Evan Engram's an okay pickup as well. Put him at 7. Spoiler alert, there's going to be no kickers in my top 10. And that is because you can stream kickers and there's going to be plenty that you can pick up that are unowned, right? The new Colts kicker is a top 3 kicker pickup this week, and he is 0% owned. We don't even know who that is yet. So we are not going to put a kicker up here. In fact, go ahead and move these guys down. Okay. Next up, I think I would go, it depends on what you need, but let's go Bryce Young at 8 over Trey Tucker. We don't need that. Kareem Hunt is fine. Kareem Hunt's at least in this area. What did Trey Tucker do last week? 4 for 64. We'll keep Trey Tucker at 8, and he's going to be the last. What's going on? Keep him at 8. We'll go Packers at 9, and then we'll go Kareem Hunt at 12, Isaiah Davis at 13. So this is my top 16. I think this is set. Patriots are probably close to like here-ish. But these are my waiver wire rankings. If you are in need of a running back, you definitely have options this week. If you are in need of a wide receiver, you probably want to make a trade. I don't think there's many good options out there, depending on your league. You know, we're looking at players who are owned in pretty much, it looks like 50% or less, other than kicker. So there's a lot of those players in between that 50 to 60% range that are out there that are very much a tier above what we see here. So there are receivers out there. Go take a look. But I'm not rushing to pick up Troy Franklin, who's my top wide receiver pickup. But if you need a running back, if you need a tight end, if you need a defense, there are certainly options this week. It's just the wide receivers that are a little bit rough. Couple questions here. What's up? Nico,